Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Play, Pause, Rewind, our 74th episode. Sorry we're a couple days late. That's my fault. Work kind of got out of hand earlier in the week, and I was not able to make our recording time. But, Niles, how have you been the last couple weeks since our last recording?
Oh, you're good, Dylan. Don't worry about it.
Thanks.
That's
Thanks, man. I
you know,
appreciate it.
yeah. Well, I've been good because I feel like I'm in a similar boat as you. Just we're both in marketing, so the first week of the month is always kind of a pain of doing reporting.
Reporting.
Yeah, reporting. Yay! It's a fun
Everybody's
time.
favorite part of the job.
I love it, and then it's feeling overwhelmed sometimes, but excited for what's to come. And it was Halloween since our last episode too, so it was a great Halloween. Got dressed up, and it was a good time. You went as Ghostbusters. I can't remember
I
the
did.
character, but
I went. I think I was Egon. I don't remember though. I had all the patches and I could switch them. What I was planning on doing was just like subtly switching which patch I was wearing throughout the night.
Smart,
and as everyone was like getting more drunk, they would be like, "Wait a minute!" But I forgot because I was also getting more drunk.
Yeah,
but
good
yeah,
plan.
Halloween was a good time. And in a rare change of pace for this month, a month that has been dominated by truly horrible, devastating news, we got some good news this afternoon. The SAG-AFTRA strike has come to an end. And it seems like, based on the statement, I kind of think the actors won big. So excited to see what that deal comes out to be. But as of midnight, the night we're recording, so in a couple hours, it's officially over. So congratulations to all the members of SAG-AFTRA. You held out and presumably won a very big fight. So congratulations.
Yeah, that's amazing. Wow, I missed that news. So yeah, that's great. Good to hear.
It just came out like 2 hours ago, like very recently.
That's why I missed it.
Yeah. But yeah, we are, as usual, going to review a film. And this week we are going to look back at a movie that came out a couple months ago, I think, on streaming, but is very good. And we wanted to talk about it. And that is No One Will Save You. So we'll start with a couple minutes of non-spoilers and then transition into spoilers. And I would recommend, if you haven't seen it, leave at that point. But No One Will Save You is written and directed by Brian Duffield and stars Caitlin Dever and follows a young woman named Bryn who lives alone, is isolated and hated by everyone in her town, and is forced to fend off a home invader while unable to rely on anyone in her community. And I really don't want to say much more than that about the story of the film itself, because it's really best watched just totally blind. Would you agree? And what are your initial thoughts as well?
Oh, I 100% agree. I mean, you've been recommending this movie to me for like ever since you saw it, like several weeks ago, and it's I feel like I agree. It's one of those movies that's best to just not know what to expect going in. Like, it's much better to like not even watch the trailer. I didn't watch the trailer, and I think you and we both went in blind, and I think that really benefits this movie because it's a psychological thriller and it really delivers on that. And I was really just impressed by that side of things, just how well it just escalated tension gradually in this film, and it was just an excellent example of like how to do visual storytelling right, how to do a psychological thriller right. But yeah, it was such a like lots of twists and turns, things that I wasn't expecting. Like, it was just really cool, and the main actor, Caitlin Dever, there, she did a fantastic job in this performance. She really carried that narrative through. It's kind of almost a solo film, but there's other people in there. Getting too much into spoilers already, but and the other thing I'll say too was that I thought that the sound design in this movie was just incredible. There were so many unique sounds that were just cool and unique, and they just really thought through a lot of that to create just a terrifying atmosphere in this movie. But yeah, what were your initial thoughts, Dylan?
Yeah, so I thought this was really slick and a very well done thriller, and a lot of this movie lives and dies on Caitlin Dever's performance, and I think she manages to carry that weight, even though she spends most of the movie without other actors to bounce off of. And like you may notice, I usually when I say who the film stars, I list off a bunch of people. I only listed her. Like there are other people in this movie,
Yeah.
but it's her. And I think the film does a really great job of knowing when to make you sit in like a moment of tension and when to rapidly escalate the stakes and sort of lean into that different type of tension. It's just really, it's a really fun thriller. I wouldn't say it's a scary movie or a horror movie, but you will be on the edge of your seat watching it the whole time.
Yeah,
I think.
I'd agree. Yeah, there's scary moments in it, but yeah, it's not like The Nun or like The Conjuring. It's a thriller.
Yeah.
And
It's a thriller and it's like unrelenting, I would say.
Yeah, yeah, it feels almost too real at some points. And you're like, how would I respond? And you just kind of put yourself in those shoes, and it's high recommendation, I think.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit weird and it's a lot of fun. It's just a really great thriller sort of edge of your seat type of film. But let's stop dancing around everything. Let's just get into the spoiler of it all because that's where the fun can be had. If you haven't seen the movie, get out of here. We'll see y'all next time for a big Marvel episode. But spoilers, surprise, it's aliens.
What?
Yeah. And I love how at least with the initial Alien, it's just the classic, pop culture idea of an alien. The big eyes, the little sort of head like that. And we get to see more designs as the movie goes on, all of which I enjoyed. But it was kind of a fun subversion of what I expected this invasive like alien or creature to be. It almost seemed non-threatening at first, like just more like it was curious a little bit. But it's pretty creepy at the same time, and
it's so creepy. I mean, the the design of that initial alien is fantastic with the long fingers and the toes. The toes.
Yeah.
That creeped me the fuck out. It made my skin crawl to just see it like land on the ground, just it's creeping around on the ground like that. It's terrifying. But yeah, like I mean, I had no idea what to expect with that first encounter because you said just go into this movie blind, and I was like, I want to see what this is. What is this? Is this like there were so many different things going through my head because in that first encounter, when she hears the noise and she gets up, it's like, I guess first she doesn't even notice the first thing where the lights in the house like turn on, every light in the house, and then they shut off really quickly, and it's like, okay, so the thing is here, and then she goes downstairs and she sees the door kind of slowly open. It's like it's opened, it's like ajar, and then she kind of sees some movement, and I think it's probably the Ghost Adventures that I've been watching lately. So I was just like, it's a ghost story. And then, it just kept escalating from there. It's like, oh wait, there's more movement. And then when it came into like her bedroom, just the way it was like twitching and moving, it just made me think like, is this an android kind of deal? Is this like a Star Wars kind of bounty hunter aesthetic? Like it really, I was just like trying to guess what it is for a long time. And then finally the alien reveals itself in all of its glory, and it's amazing.
And in the moment, well, first off, I love the way it moves so quickly. It's very still, and it's like pop, 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 pop. But at the moment when she first kills that first one is so shocking. Like, it's so abrupt and well executed, and I just didn't really know what to feel, because on the one hand, it's very unnerving. It broke into her house. It might mean her harm. But on the other hand, it's like, it almost is behaving in this weird, like, childlike manner at the same time, and I wasn't sure what I was supposed to think it was feeling in all of these moments either. So I was like, I was like, shit, is this, like, she's in trouble now because she killed one of them, but, like, was this just a little curious guy, like, exploring around and he came into the wrong place? Or was this someone who meant her harm? And, like, we find out more about that as the film goes on. It would have, like, put that thing in her throat and, like, made her part of the body snatcher hive mind or whatever. But at that moment, I was like, shit, I feel kind of bad for this guy, but also you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. Well, for so long, like I kept like going back and forth in my head. I was like, because I agree with you. There was a part of me that felt like maybe it was just curious. It didn't know how to like communicate with us. And it could have been a friendly alien just like bouncing around the house looking for the person to talk to and like meet them. And there was like even a moment later in the film too, where it's like she's having another encounter, like this alien's kind of chasing her around the house, and then she's in the basement, and it's just kind of sitting there looking at her for a bit.
Yeah.
And it's like they kind of had this connection, like this mutual understanding for a second, and he even like stops and looks at her picture that she took, and it's like, okay, maybe there is something here. Maybe it's just like, wouldn't that have been such a crazy reveal at the end where they're like, we literally came in peace and you killed everyone that we sent to your home.
Yeah, well, that was something I was thinking too. It's like, because subsequent aliens start showing up and like chasing her and harassing her, and I had a thought. It's like, what if they were peaceful and they're just like retaliating because she killed one of their dudes?
Yeah, right.
And but I don't think that was the case, because by that point they have kind of taken over the entirety of the town and maybe the world.
Yeah, right. Well, and one thing too with that first kill, you know, they did such a good job of slowly building up that suspense, but kind of getting a little ahead here. But later on in the film, we figure out that the reason why our protagonist, Bryn, right? Why she's kind of ostracized by the town and her community is because she killed her childhood friend, and we get a flashback to that. And I thought, after I kind of watched it and thought about it for a little bit more, it was creative that the way that she killed that alien was a very similar motion of how she killed her friend, you know, when she's like standing up and she hits her friend with the rock. It was kind of the same motion. She comes up really violently and quickly and stabs the alien in the head in kind of a similar motion. So I thought that was kind of a creative parallel there.
Yeah, and she does seem pretty shocked after that first kill too. So maybe that's what prompted that shock more than what we're initially thinking, where it's just like, oh my god, I just killed a thing in my home.
Which is also a crazy thought too, of being like,
yeah,
okay,
that would be pretty traumatizing as well. But I
like,
love the escalating like sense of isolation that this character is going through, because she's already like alone, right? Because no one wants to interact with her. But it gets even more insane when she's just like trying to get out of town on that bus, and then it turns out everyone on there is like a body snatched person who has already been infected by the aliens, and they all start charging at her. That's where the point where the movie really started to get like unrelenting, where it's like there is nowhere she can go that is safe for her, and she's just on the run and fighting the entire time.
Yeah, it literally is the name of the movie. No one's gonna save her. She can't escape.
No one will save you.
Yeah, no one will save you. You're shit out of luck, kid. And one of the things that I appreciated too, like if I was that protagonist in that same scenario, I think I would do basically a lot of the same stuff that she did. You know, I'd like to think that I would, but like, you know, if I had no other option and no one in town liked me, fuck yeah, I'd take a bus to get out of Dodge. I'd get out of the state. I'm saying, this is not my problem. I'm out of here. Like, I'm done with this. So yeah, I appreciate that she acted real, you know?
Yeah. And she comes up with a plan. She does a little bit of like Home Alone strategizing for when they come back, you know? But the thing that really stood out to me about this movie was, there's no dialogue.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like a teeny tiny bit, which we'll talk about in a bit, but like, I thought it was a super interesting, creative choice, and it really elevates what could have been a pretty straightforward, sort of almost bog standard narrative into something a bit more mysterious and stylistic. like one of the main story threads is, why does everyone fucking hate this girl? She seems perfectly pleasant.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And like that is kept a mystery. Like what happened to Maud? Who is this person she's writing to? Why does everyone hate her? Like in a film that's more dialogue heavy, like that would have probably come up earlier in the story, right? That would be revealed at a certain point, and it wouldn't have worked in the same way. And keeping it a mystery this long would have felt more forced in a film where dialogue was ever present. But the way it's done here, it turns it into a really big revelation and also provides some emotional catharsis for our main character towards the end of the story when she's at her lowest point, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that was like one of the things that just blew me away was just, yeah, there's literally no lines. Like the aliens have more lines than humans in this movie. You know, she says like one thing, like one line, I feel like, and it's just like she says, "I'm sorry."
Yeah.
Basically, that was the only line, and it was the perfect line because, yeah, you know, it just communicated everything that we needed to know in that moment of regret, guilt, remorse. Like you just need to put that in there, and it just makes you sympathize with her that much more. To me, you know, I feel like the lack of dialogue was the perfect choice for this film because I agree. Yeah, like we've seen body snatcher movies before, Attack on Mars, like all these kinds of alien abduction stories, alien invasion stories, War of the Worlds. You know, they're so action heavy and like there's so much dialogue. It's like you need something, you need a fresh perspective on it if you're going to like approach that niche again.
Yeah.
And I think this film is kind of a masterclass in some ways of how to do visual storytelling because, you know, without any words, they were able to communicate just this very powerful narrative and everything we need to know about the protagonist's backstory. And, you know, they don't give it to us all at once. It's kind of drip fed. It's slow. And yeah, you're right. It's a mystery throughout most of the movie. And
Yeah,
obviously that approach can't work for, it can't work for
everything.
every movie.
Yeah, but I think it is sort of like a positive version of a catch-22. I don't know if there's a term for that, but it's like this creative choice works because the narrative is made simple enough for it to work without dialogue. But then that straightforward narrative is elevated by this creative choice as well. So it just really good decisions all around on that front. And you were right. The one line of dialogue is just her telling Maud in whatever contraption she's in at the end, like, "I'm sorry." And you painting it out like that kind of made me think of, it's like when a painting is like in all black and white except for one item that's in color, you know? It's like it's saving that ingredient of color or dialogue for the focal point, the core of what the piece is about. And it just highlights that moment all that much more.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that just makes me think of, like Schindler's List to a certain degree, where it's like it's a black and white the whole movie, and then that one little girl is red. And it's because you're supposed to see that, and it's significant, and it's the emotional pull of like, oh, yeah, there were kids in this horrible, horrible event that happened in history, and it just makes you sympathize that much more with the story. It's so true when you use it strategically and in the right creative way. One line of dialogue can make all the difference.
Yeah. So let's talk about our protagonist, Bryn, a little bit. You have some interesting thoughts about her. Obviously, she is the heart of the movie. She carries the whole thing. But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I feel like she's a fascinating character in a lot of ways, because I think that not only is her story tragic and kind of just like it's punctuated by so much grief and trauma, but I feel like her experience in her life, her character, it feels emblematic or like kind of reflective of the loneliness epidemic in the U.S. right now.
Okay.
That was just one read that I felt on it, but I feel like especially millennials, Gen Z, they're feeling this the most out of all people. And I mean, everyone's kind of feeling it, I think, especially during the pandemic. That definitely came to light. But, you know, Bryn in this movie, she's treated like a pariah in her town because of her past actions. She's ostracized. She's to me, it also feels like she's grappling with severe like PTSD and some anxiety, of all this stuff that's happened in her life. She's got no one in her life, no friends. It seems like the only thing that gives her joy is like creating this tiny little town in her home, like all these like tiny little replicas of all the buildings and everything. Like she's trying to make her own little utopia. And even like when there was like a few moments where it's like she's about to go into a social setting or she's about to go outside and drive, and she's kind of like hyping herself up, she's practicing her smile to herself and like how to wave. And and there was even like a moment in the movie too. It was really quick. It was like she's looking at like an older couple, they're holding hands, and it feels like she's just so envious of that. Like she has no one special in her life to share that kind of connection with. And to me, it just felt like she's just incredibly lonely and was struggling to find someone to connect with, someone to empathize with her. And I feel like that's a very relatable character for a lot of people.
Well, and if I'm remembering the scene you're talking about, that older couple also, it's Maud's parents. So when she's hiding behind the car, that's why she's so like, she's freaking out when she sees them because she doesn't want them to see her. But I think you're right on about all that. That makes a lot of sense. And then you also have she's put the little like tape on the floor so she can practice the right like movements for dancing, but she's just doing it by herself. And she's building this like idyllic little town. Like she's imagining this life that she wants to have, but never can because of what happened in her childhood and the fact that she killed her friend. And that like everyone she knows fucking hates her.
And like her parents are gone. Like they don't really address it, but her parents, I believe, are dead, and she's just in this house all alone. And I would go stir crazy. I would get lonely in that house too, especially if the surrounding community didn't like me.
But then shit kind of hits the fan to the point where, as far as we know, she's the only one left and is just running through the woods and then back into her house. And then she fights and she fights and she fights, but eventually she gets caught in like the little tractor beam thing. And
Which
it gets
so
kind of
cool.
It's very cool. The way she's frozen looks so uncomfortable and unnatural, and just you can tell like her acting is so good too. Like you can see her fear and how like it's like it feels like it's like shit. I've done so much and fought so hard, and now I'm just here and it's over and there's nothing I can do.
Yeah, that ending was it was beautiful in a lot of ways, and it was a little confusing too. But like she gets this. She kind of rejects the alien parasite in a way, and which is just crazy to me that she had that kind of willpower to do it. But I think that just kind of speaks to her character's strength and her resilience, and that she can recognize a fake reality from a mile away, because she's like, this isn't the life I know, and I would love to stay here, but I can't because I know this isn't true, and this isn't. I just can't stay here. This isn't what I need. But then she gets taken up into that spaceship, and she has this collective kind of hallucination with the aliens, and that's where we get to see all that stuff about her childhood, and we get to learn more about why that couple, like why that woman spit in her face, and why the cops despise her and don't help her. And it was, just that whole climax is really cool, and I really enjoyed the aesthetic of the spaceship. Like once they're on the inside, it's just like black and stars and like liquid. It's like it's so cool up there. I love that.
Yeah, it's very alien, despite like adhering on the outside of it very closely to the typical flying saucer format. But also I think the reason it's not that she's like special in terms of willpower or just like is stronger than other people. It might be partially, I think it's that for her character, but like in the logic of the movie, I would say that alien, the first one, was probably meant to get that into her throat while she was sleeping, and that's what happened to everybody else. And it's just that she knows enough information about what's going on and knows that everybody else is getting body snatched. So she has enough like context clues to recognize that the reality she's seeing is not real. And then that's how she throws it up. So I think she was just like empowered by her experience more than anything else there. But
that's a good point. Yeah, I didn't even think of that because for a while there, I was kind of confused about that. Like, how did she like recognize that? How did she know that she like while she was in this fantasy world, like know that she needed to reach down her throat and pull this thing out? Like it was kind of crazy to me. But and then like there were some things that kind of confused me in this ending. Like I think in any kind of alien movie, you're always going to ask like, well, what's the goal? What are they trying to achieve? Why are they here? And like, why are they trying to assimilate people and like bring them under their control? Like, what's the purpose here? And, at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter, like it doesn't matter what their ultimate goal is because the story isn't about them. The story is about this human character that we're here. And I think the purpose of them, like even like when you think about it logistically, like why are they looking at her memories? Like what's the purpose of this for reviewing them? And it's like, well, doesn't matter. Again, it's for her character, and it provided kind of this emotional closure for her. It kind of allowed us as an audience to gain greater insight into her experience. I think
I actually do have an answer to that question, though. Why they're looking at our memories? Because from what we see, they're able to get everybody else in this town like pretty easily. So I can imagine if you're like one of these aliens, you'd be like, "What the fuck is this girl's deal? Like, how has she been able to fight us so effectively? Like, who is this person?" I think it's just like their interest in her was piqued because she was able to fend them off for so long when nobody else did. That was kind of my read on it, at least.
I like that. That makes perfect sense because it'd be like, wow, we throwing 4 aliens at her now,
Yeah.
And
she blew up her house. She blew up her car.
This woman doesn't give a shit. Well, I think the climax is, it's probably one of the more action-packed parts, and everything kind of happens really quickly. So I started to get a little bit more confused as it went on. But like for reflection, I feel like I've got a better sense of what was going on here. And but let me ask you this, Dylan: do you think that she was assimilated?
No, I do not. I don't remember seeing anything on her throat at the end, and I think they I think they just cut her a break and they gave her the life that she was like longing for, because she at the end of the movie she's just like dancing and having a block party with all of the body snatched members of her town who previously hated her, and it's like a lot of things to feel about that. On the one hand, good for you. You get the life you want, but also it's a little sad because you are essentially just playing with dolls, as you were doing before, and also it's really fucking creepy.
Yeah, it's so creepy, man.
But it works so well for this movie. It's like, I don't know, you feel all of those things at once, and all of those responses are valid because it's like, she did kill her friend as a child, and that's fucked up, but it was accidental. Like, she did mean to hit the girl, but she didn't mean to kill her, obviously. And holding that against someone who was a small child, holding that against them for the rest of their life is pretty cruel, I would say.
Yeah, it's absurd. And I think I certainly didn't hate her for it. Of course, in the moment, you have every right to be mad at her for killing your kid, but at a certain point, it's like you gotta let go and you gotta move on. Like, forgive.
You have to understand that, like, it was an accident.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just an
and
accident.
how did you feel? How did you feel just like about the revelation of what happened to Maud and why everyone hates her, just in general?
I thought it worked really well. And I feel like it made me sympathize with her even more at that point, because I knew just how alienated she was by her community. And I think that revelation just added to that sympathy
Mm-hmm.
pile for me. I think I'll say that like Reddit is a gold mine for interpretations of this film. Like it's
Uh-huh.
just there's a lot on there. I dove deep into a subreddit just looking at stuff, and there's a whole lot of ideas, a lot of interpretations of why she was kind of left to her own devices among the aliens. Like some people
Mm-hmm.
are like, well, the aliens realized that she's been trying to have this community and everyone's neglected her, so let's give it to her. Like she's
Mm-hmm.
earned it at this point, and it
Yeah.
is fucked up because yeah, at the end of the day, it's like, well, yeah, you know, all of these people, they no longer have thoughts or feelings or emotions. It's all kind of a fake mask, and
Yep.
she's yeah, like you said, just kind of playing with dolls at that point. So it's kind of simultaneously sweet and horrific. But she's happy. She got the happiness that she wanted, but at the
Uh-huh.
cost of her neighbors and their freedoms. Um, and one,
Maybe more than just her neighbors. Who knows? Because at the end
yeah,
we see like a bunch of ships flying around. It's like, oh, they took over the world, didn't they?
yeah, yeah. Well, and yeah, I think I also saw like an interpretation that was like, well, the aliens were just looking for like the most effective natural born killers among the human race. I'm like, I don't know about that, but
I don't think we're meant to care what the aliens are looking for, and I don't think we're meant to like I like that it's sort of disorienting and their motivation is left unclear because like Britain wouldn't know. We're following her. This is through her
yeah.
eyes, and if they're not going to give her that information, then we shouldn't get it either.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I felt like the revelation about Maud too. It works really well for me, both as an explanation, like a rational explanation for why everyone hates her so much. Because while I said earlier, it's like cruel to hold that against someone for their whole life, and I still maintain that it makes sense. Like
Mm-hmm.
you kill like one of your friends with a big rock, people aren't gonna like you very much. But it was something that was like it's really bad but unintentional, so it didn't make me suddenly dislike her after rooting for her for the entire movie. So I think they struck that balance really well with that revelation.
Yeah, yeah, I'd agree on that. And I one other thing too on just kind of
Mm-hmm.
the aliens. I read online in one of the interviews with the writer slash director
Yeah.
of this movie, and he described the aliens as a species of explorers. You know,
Mm-hmm.
which could mean a lot of different things. And I think you can interpret that as they're curious, kind of like what you were saying earlier, that maybe they just wanted to get to know her, but that wasn't really the case. They're just curious. They want to learn about other planets and maybe other species. And I think it's not really the why that we're not trying to interpret the why of why they
Mm-hmm.
came to Earth. It's like we're trying to figure out the why for why she has this real utopia for herself
Mm-hmm.
at the end. And I think that there's a lot of ways that you could go about that, but I think one was that just or one of the my favorites that I saw on Reddit was like the aliens couldn't control her. They could not. She defied them so much that they said like you just suggested, they just said fuck it. You can have
Yeah.
it. We don't
Yeah.
You can have it. You can have your community. And I thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah,
Um
I definitely think there's an element of it where it's like she earned their respect by the
mhm.
end. She fought enough to where they're like, okay, we'll give you something. Like,
Yeah. You've earned this. You've had a shitty life. Yeah, you get this now.
yeah.
Um, and I think the ending is also just kind of an exploration of empathy in some ways, or the lack of it within
Mm-hmm.
humans, because these creatures from another galaxy, another solar system, what have you, they were able to understand her experience and her guilt and her trauma in a way that the humans in her community were not able to do so. And
True.
of course, it's about perspective and all that stuff. But the aliens recognized that she's had a shit life, and yeah, I thought that was kind of beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would. I mean, it's great. It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Simple but well executed with interesting choices made and a great protagonist to follow. But definitely recommend this to, I would say, most everyone. Right? It's,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. If you like
just
thrillers, this is right up your alley for sure. But yeah, I think
right.
a lot of people will enjoy it, and yeah, I would recommend it too.
Yeah. Well, with that, let's transition to the next segment of our show. Just other stuff we've been watching, reading, playing, doing whatever the fuck. Niles, go for it.
So continuing on with Loki, very excited for the final episode tomorrow for season 2. That's going to be awesome to see how it all concludes. It's been, yeah, I think this is probably like Marvel's strongest show. You know, like I really liked WandaVision when it came out, and there have been some other good ones, but I think Loki's like they hit that mark pretty well
Yeah.
for it. And
Loki's the one that has like most committed to being a show. I feel like,
yeah,
other than She-Hulk. She-Hulk was very TV show in format.
true, yeah, yeah. They just kind of went all in on this one. It's really cool. All the revelations that are coming with it, and the acting's just superb. Also been watching Gen V. Still not very far into it, but it's the Boys spinoff, and so far I've been enjoying it a lot. It's got a very interesting premise, and I just enjoyed the idea of just exploring more of this world that The Boys is set in, and kind of all the cultural nuances that come with commercialized superheroes.
Yeah.
And yeah, the other week too, we watched Kingdom of Heaven, the director's cut version, and that was the first time viewing that movie, and it was phenomenal, I would say.
Yeah. Yep. It
What about
is.
you?
Yeah. So, like you came over and we watched Kingdom of Heaven director's cut together. I've seen it before, and I love that movie. And just when the last time we were in the theater, I forget what. Oh, Killers of the Flower Moon. We saw the trailer for Napoleon. And it's like, oh, Ridley Scott, historical epic. It just made me want to watch Kingdom of Heaven again. It's like, of course, Gladiator, but I've seen Gladiator like a million times.
Yeah, me too.
So it's if you haven't seen the director's cut of Kingdom of Heaven, I would highly recommend it. Apparently, the theatrical cut is not very good, but the director's cut is like a true epic. It's incredible. I love it so much. But also, I have been continuing reading The Witcher short stories, The Last Wish. This morning, actually, I got to the short story, The Last Wish. Yeah, but one thing I think is very funny reading this book is that when the first season of The Witcher came out, you remember the episodes were kind of out of order, and there was there was that one chronological story with Ciri going forward, and some people were like, it's all confusing because it's out of order, and I don't really like that. That's how the book is. The short stories in the book, like they just adapted the book, and they changed the chronology, the like linear chronology part to focus on Ciri because Ciri is a character that carries forward. And I just think The Witcher show is not great. It has a lot of faults. But I have found it very interesting that some of the strongest and most aggressive critiques people have made of the show are specifically of elements and moments taken directly from the book. I just have noticed that 3 or 4 times over the last year, and I'm like, I don't think y'all read the books. You claim you care about them a whole lot, but I don't think you read them.
Yeah.
I think you're lying.
Something's not adding up here.
Yeah, so that's calling some of you out there. I also downloaded and started playing the Insomniac Spider-Man game. Not Spider-Man 2, the one that just came out. Spider-Man 1 from several years ago because it's available on PC now.
Oh,
and
okay.
I'm not super far into it, but man, just swinging around New York is so satisfying. Once you get the rhythm of it, it's like, oh yeah, there's a mission there. I should go do that, but I'm swinging.
But I'm having fun. This is fun.
So enjoyed that. I also started in the new season of Invincible. Great start to that. The first episode of season 2. Excuse me. Season 2 was really good. Excited to see where we go from here. Have you watched it yet?
I have not.
Okay.
I've been itching to. There's a part of me that's like, I just need to do one superhero show at a time, and then I'm watching Loki and Gen V at the same time. I'm like, okay, I could probably squeeze an Invincible.
Yeah, fair. It's good. And you've read the comics, so you know
Yeah.
more or less where the story goes. I'm sure they're changing things, but
I'm so excited for it. Yeah, I need to catch up.
Yeah. Also, continuing on with Loki, which I am continuing to enjoy. That was the penultimate episode this week, and the finale is tomorrow night, so I guess I'll watch that after we see the Marvels. But, yeah, I agree. Loki is probably one of Marvel's strongest current running properties. We'll talk about Loki next time.
Yeah.
I also went to see the new David Fincher movie, The Killer, starring Michael Fassbender. Very straightforward narratively compared to like what I usually see in Fincher movies, but it's just a very satisfyingly executed hitman movie. Just
dope.
It's like it's like Michael Fassbender plays this contract killer, and he's very precise, and he has his processes, and he's talking to you about how it all, like how you have to execute and how everything leading up to the moment and after the moment is really key, and how he doesn't really make mistakes, and then he royally fucks up.
Oh no!
and the movie is about the sort of in a world like this where you're this sort of contract killer, like what are the days and weeks after a professional fuck up like that going to look like for you? It's really cool.
Okay, I need to watch that. That sounds
awesome. I think you missed it in theaters, but it'll be on Netflix in like 2 days. I also went to see Priscilla on Sunday, the new Sofia Coppola movie about Priscilla Presley, and really excellent. Really, really excellent. And I think despite it having a very competing portrayal of Elvis Presley to the movie Elvis, this works as a really excellent, although tonally incredibly different companion piece to that, because having seen Elvis, I kind of knew where along their lives I was at every point in the story, but this movie is very focused on Priscilla, and the absence of the spectacle of Elvis's life is a big part of it as well. And it also focuses on a lot of elements of their relationship that the Elvis biopic that's all about how like wonderful Elvis was shies away from and sort of moves on, like principally the fact that Priscilla was 14 when they started dating.
Yeah, that's not good, dude.
Yeah, in Elvis, it's kind of like, yeah, and he was in France, and he fell in love with the colonel's daughter or whatever, and it's like, yes, yep, he did, but how young was that daughter? Baz Luhrmann, would you like to share that with us?
Yeah, that's a little uncomfortable, dude.
But also on Sunday, I watched The Royal Hotel, which I missed in theaters. I really wanted to see it, but after the opening weekend, it was just like every showing was at 4 p.m. I'm like, well, I can't go. I'm working. But yeah, it's like these two Canadian. Well, they say they're Canadian. They may be American. Who knows? But they're like doing work for travel programs, basically traveling around the world and working a little bit to make money for the next leg of the travel. And they run out of money, so they're in Sydney and they run out of money. And the only job available to them is like bartending this pub called the Royal Hotel in the middle of the like outback. So they get dropped off at this hotel, and it's just it's a bit of a thriller, I would say, but not supernatural. It's more just like the people they have to interact with are not quite proper, like not well behaved. They're two like young women in an environment full of like kind of raunchy men, and that's sort of the horror of that situation. But I really liked it. I thought it was a good movie.
Nice. Yeah. That one seemed thriller-esque and a little uncomfortable, but yeah.
Yeah, I'd recommend it, though. It's really good. But that's going to do it for us this week. We will be back in 2 weeks for... we're just going to do a big Marvel episode, because Loki finale is tomorrow and the Marvels is tomorrow. So we're going to do what we did with Doctor Strange 2 and Moon Knight a couple years ago, a year ago. We'll do a big double feature episode. Maybe we'll kick it off by talking about that Variety article, talking about the state of Marvel Studios and everything, and how it's all kind of, the House of Cards seems to be crumbling down a little bit. So maybe we'll kick it off with that, and then talk about Loki, and then the Marvels. So you all be sure to watch both of those if you care, and then we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Until then, Niles, where can people find you on the internet?
On Instagram at Niles Got No Styles. What about you, Dylan? Where can people follow you online?
On Instagram at DylanD1026, on Twitter at D-Day Movies, on YouTube at D-Day Movies, on Twitch at D-Day_movies. You can find both of us here at Play Pause Rewind, both on podcast platforms and on YouTube, and on our second YouTube channel, which we have neglected a little bit, and we will correct that eventually, called Play Pause Rewind Videos, where we do another series called Rewind, which is a lot of fun, as well as have spoiler-free sections of our episodes and all that other fun stuff over there. But thank you all so much for watching and or listening. Be sure to give us a 5-star review if you'd like, or do a like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. And we'll see you all next time. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.